Hey, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to Life Mastery Decoded for women and women entrepreneurs, where I help you decode the struggles in your life in the areas of health, wealth, and relationships with mind mastery and meditation tools and techniques so that you can live the life that you're proud of. Welcome to today's podcast. Hey, ladies, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to today's podcast, where I am hoping to find you with deep connections with other people. And if you are not deeply connected to other people in your life, those people that you want to be, it is my intention that today's episode gives you one nugget of inspiration towards deepening your relationships. When I was younger, there was this woman that I absolutely loved. And to this day, I'm 48 years old, and I would still consider her to be my best friend. Now, she has long since passed. 2010, she passed away, and this woman was my grandmother. And my grandma was this Sicilian woman who was the best cook in the world, and I just absolutely loved her. And as I analyze why I loved her so much and why I would consider her to be my best friend, is because she listened. Today we're going to be talking about one simple step that you can take to start deepening your connections with others, leaving your impact with other people. It raises your vibration because it gives you something grateful to be where you are giving back to somebody else. It also gives the attention off of you and onto them. When we are giving back, we raise our vibration. We almost automatically go into a space of gratitude, which is the highest vibration you can have. Now, I'm not saying only to do this because you want to get something in return, but the getting of something in return feels much better than if you were to just be with somebody who you could constantly complain to. So when I was with my grandma, when I was younger, she would come to our house. She and my grandpa would come to our house for holidays. Thanksgiving, they lived about 3 hours away. And we lived in central Michigan, and she lived in Detroit. And they would make the trek to our house. And it would be for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, and sometimes during spring break. And when she was coming, and I would have to go to school, that day would be quite annoying to my friends and my classmates because I was constantly talking about my grandma's coming because I was so excited to see her. And I just absolutely loved her. And when we would get together, my grandma would give me quality time. She would give me undivided attention, and she would listen to me, and she would give me, she would ask questions. She got to know me. And she spent time with me, and she gave me quality time. Now, my love language, if you've listened to the other podcast titled The 5 Love Languages, my love language is quality time. So, of course, as she's giving me quality time, she is completely filling my bucket. Now, I'm not saying that other people in my life did not give me quality time, but as you know, grandmothers have this freedom to be able to spoil their grandkids and then go back home. So I understand now as a parent, like wanting to give my kids quality time, but then there's dinner to be made. There's showers to be given, right? There's dogs to be fed. So there's all these other tasks that kind of get in the way of us giving back to our own kids. And I don't want to wait until I'm a grandparent to give my kids, their kids' attention. I want to give it to my boys. So how do I do that? I have realized that in a way of listening, like really listening to another person, deepens your relationship in a very short amount of time. Now, how do we do that? What happens is when you are spending time with somebody and you're having a conversation, a lot of times if you're in your own stuff, that you're anticipating what they're going to say, or you're answering for them, or you're interrupting them, or possibly you're just waiting for them to stop talking so you can hurry up and say what you need to say. Most everybody wants to talk about themselves. I totally get that. And we're our own person. We're the center of our own universe. We can only experience things through our eyes and our physical senses. I can't experience that through somebody else. I'm never going to be able to do that. So it makes sense that I just want to talk about myself. However, if you want deeper connections, You must let them talk about them. What happens in turn, if their bucket is filled, they now can give back to you. When Bob first moved in with me, he was 15 years old. I had my nephew in foster care and he was living with me. And I had gone on vacation and I was out west. And actually before going on vacation, I got this phone call from our caseworker that said, I have this young man who needs respite care for about 2 weeks. And I said, well, I'm going to be out west for 2 weeks, but I would be happy to take him now. But it's probably only going to be for about 10 days. And he says, okay. And so so it was like, I don't know, 3 days later or something, this young boy shows up on my doorstep with all of his belongings in tow. And I go to meet him. I'm standing in the kitchen and the caseworker walked in and Bob breezed in and he literally walked right by me down the hallway saying, where do I put my stuff? And I tell the caseworker, I'm like, what's his name again? And he's, well, his name's Robert. He goes by Bob. And I'm like, okay. I mean, so I called him for a long time, my little hurricane. He just breezed in through the front door, passed me down the hall and said, where do I sleep? And so I say, yeah, you're in that room at the end of the hall. And he's like, okay. So he literally goes in that room and shuts the door. And I'm like, well, okie dokie. And so my caseworker left. I've got it, I'm all set and off he goes. And it was probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes later, Bob shows back up in the kitchen. Well, I start talking with him. We sit down at the kitchen table. I'm engaging with him. I'm conversing with him. I don't know this kid. I've never met him. I have no idea who he is, where he comes from, what experiences he's had. I know nothing about him. So what does this mean? Well, I took it upon myself to now spend this time getting to know him. And how did I do that? Well, I spent quality time with him. And what does quality time look like? Well, it's quality of your attention. So that was eye contact, my body language, how I was situated physically. Was I facing him? Were my arms crossed? Was I playing with something and not engaging with him? Or was I physically focused on what he was doing or what he was saying? Then I would ask questions. Like he would tell me these things that he liked or things that he's done. And I would continue to ask a few more questions to deepen my knowledge about what it is he was telling me. Then our conversation would go deeper. He would trust in me. He would rely on me. He would feel like he would feel safe with me. And I would let him talk and talk and talk and talk. So as long as words were coming out of his mouth, I was sitting and giving him that space. I was not talking over top of him. I was not interrupting him. I was not anticipating what he was going to say. I was not feeding him words when he was thinking of, oh shoot, what's that called? And I would want to feed him the word and I just didn't. I just let him talk. I developed this very deep bond with this young man in about 10 days. From stranger to deep bond. And is it possible for me as this young woman to develop this deep bond with this 15-year-old boy who I have very little in common, I've never met, I know nothing about, but in 10 days I developed this very deep bond with him. I went on vacation. So now he and my nephew had to go to another foster home just for a couple of weeks while I was out west on vacation. Every single day, our caseworker called. And every single day it was the same thing. Hey, Jen, just want to find out if maybe Bob could stay with you permanently, as permanent foster home, because he is quite connected to you. I have known Bob for 6 months. This is a caseworker. I have known Bob for 6 months. I have never heard him talk so highly about anybody in my life. And he is connected with you. And I'm just wondering if it's possible your home could be a permanent placement. Well, and at that time we were having trouble with my nephew at the time. And I was like, I don't know. I really have to think about it, but not because of Bob, but because of my nephew. My nephew was high maintenance. He was always getting into trouble. And I wasn't sure if the two of them would bond together. So needless to say, over the course of 14 days, I decided, yes, let's give this young man. I really enjoyed being with him. I really enjoyed his company. I was curious about his story and getting to know him, and I got a good feeling about him. So I said, yes, we'll go ahead and have him, fill out all the paperwork and all that and have him be permanent placement. Once I got back to meeting with him, once we got back from vacation and Bob and I hanging out more, we would go and shoot baskets. We would go for walks. We would, I had a couple of dogs back then. And so we would go and walk the dogs and we would spend time together. And in the times that we were spending together, I'm continuing to do the same thing all the way through our relationship. And as I've mentioned in the other, and I'm not going to tell the whole story here, but here's another little tidbit. But as I mentioned in the other podcast, I did adopt Bob as a 17-year-old young man. And if you didn't know better and you met the two of us, you would totally think that he is my biological son. And the reason I say that is because of our closeness, because of the bond that I have with him. Because I dedicated that time to him to give quality time for all of our engagements. Was I 100%? Well, no, because there's, I am human. I don't know if you guys know that, but I am. And there were times that were rough for me. We went through a couple of things, right? I did go through that breakup with him. Not the breakup with him, but the breakup with my ex that I was with for 10 years. And so that was kind of weighing on me, but I did reach out to him. But I will tell you this. At this time, he was probably 16. I think he was probably 16, almost 17. It was, I don't know, 16 and a half or something. And I remember having a relatively rough night and going through this breakup. And I was sitting on the couch. We were out in the living room watching a movie. And I think I was just overcome with emotion. And he literally turned the movie off and looked at me and said, "Do you want to talk about it?" Now just think about that for a second. That is not your typical 16-year-old boy. So here I'm this woman who's going through this breakup. I'm having a little bit of emotional difficulty at the moment. He turns the movie off and says, "Do you want to talk about it?" The reason he did that is because I gave to him. I kept his bucket full. It was on purpose. With purpose. I developed a deep bond with him. I remember several times when kids are in foster care, they are to see counselors every week. That is like state requirement, at least in Michigan. And so he would meet with his counselor for, let's say it's a 55-minute or a 60-minute session. And he would meet with the counselor for probably 45 minutes. And then I would meet with them for that 15 minutes. Just how are things going and how's he doing? Are you having any trouble? Whatever. And it was a woman counselor and she was awesome. And she's like, how are things going? And I said, great. I said, I really enjoy him. He's a great young man. And she goes, I highly advise that you read his chart or his file. And she goes, it's about 3 inches thick of all of the trauma in his life. And I'm like, I don't need to read his file. I said, as long as he's not like going to kill the animals or start a fire to my house. He goes, no, nothing like that. She goes, nothing like that. She's like, but I do advise that you read it. And I said, now, why would I read it? She goes, I think that you should just be aware of what he's gone through. And I'm like, why? And she really couldn't come up with a positive answer. It almost seemed like she wanted to set me up in this way that he's this kid that does these things. And I'm like, okay. And I just kept saying, okay, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. Do you want to check out the file? And I'm like, no, not at this time. And I just kept building and building and building my relationship with him. I wanted us to start out on neutral ground. Now, coming to find out, I'm his 3rd adoption. And his first adoption, there was a lot of sexual abuse. He was adopted by a single man who also adopted 1 other boy and then fostered 2 other boys. So he had 4 boys in the house. And it was in a very small city south of where I live here. And it basically became a sexual ring for this whole household. In the middle of the night, the police swept in and said, everybody out. All the boys, grab your stuff, let's go. And this man was put in jail. And as far as I know, still remains behind bars. This was a very traumatic event. Not only are you ripped out of your environment, of course, that would be traumatic, but just the whole entire time of all of this stuff going on. Bob was somewhere between like 12 and 13 when that was happening. His first adoption, he was 3 years old, and he was adopted by this family until the age of 13, 12 or 13, and then he was adopted by this other guy. And so during that 10 or 12 years that he's with this other family, it was neglect and physical abuse that he went through. He was a prisoner in his room, and he was basically the slave of the house to take care of their other 2 daughters. One that was adopted and the other one that they had biologically. And it was a lot of neglect. Well, if I take you out of your current environment and I put you in an environment that is neglect and abusive, you're going to have behavior too. So Bob was ADHD, oppositional defiance, oppositional defiance, ADHD, reactive attachment disorder, and executive functioning. Executive functioning disorder is when you can't plan. You have a hard time planning. If I have a report due on Friday, I should do this on Monday, do this on Tuesday, do this by Wednesday, and have it done by Friday. He has a hard time planning. So he has these 4 labels. And he comes to me, and they want to tell me all about these labels. And they want to tell me all about his trauma, and they want to tell me about all his neglect. And I'm like, no, thank you. You know, I heard enough of it because they would just kind of throw it out at me, and I would stop them in mid-sentence. I'm like, it's okay. I said, I got it. I have a lot of knowledge. I feel pretty confident with what I'm doing. Please just let me build my relationship with him. So then one of the times, I would say it's probably a couple of months into our relationship, and the counselor, she goes, I want you to know that this is what's called the honeymoon stage. Because she's like, do you have any problems? I'm like, no. I said, he's great. I said, I absolutely love having him around. He's always helpful. I say, can you come do the dishes? He says, okay. Come take the trash out. Okay. Hey, do you want to go for a walk? He's like, yeah. And, he's very communicative. He's very sensitive. He's very compassionate and all these things. And she goes, this is what we call the honeymoon stage. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? She goes, well, basically everything's good for a while. And then he's going to start testing you. And he'll start testing you, and he'll start doing weird things. Maybe he'll steal from you. Maybe he won't come home from school. Maybe he'll start doing things without asking. He'll start saying no to you, and I'm like, okay. And she goes, so that's bound to happen. I'm just warning you. And so then this is me. I look at my watch and I go, yeah, I'm still waiting. He's 26. Now he doesn't live with me anymore, but he did live with me before he went to college and after he, got out of college. And I've never had a problem with him. He's never been oppositional to me. He's never mouthed off with me. Now I've had some trouble when I'm like trying to push him a little bit to get him to expand and to grow and to kind of step into his own power, but that's natural. That kind of progression was not a big deal. But now why did that happen? Why did I not have arguments? Why did I not say, come take the garbage out? And he's like, hell no, take it out your own damn self. He never did that. Why is that? I'm telling you, the power of listening. I deepened my relationship with him the second he walked into my house. Everywhere I go, every job I've had, once I knew this skill, I would start implementing it right away. With the managers at work, with the boss, with the people that I work with. Hey, how's it going? What do you got going on? You had a baby. Great. What's your baby's name? And what's going on now? And just constantly asking questions. And what that does is builds trust. It builds dependability. And how do I do that? Okay, so I gave you a couple of different skill sets. So one is body language. Now, how fun is it to talk to somebody who is on their phone and like they're texting or they're on Facebook and you're talking to them, telling them something important. Their body language is not with you. Their attention is not on you. You get done talking and they don't continue the conversation. Does that feel good or does it feel like you're unimportant? To me, it would feel like I'm unimportant. What I have to say is falling on deaf ears. What's the purpose of saying it? I might as well talk to myself. So what I do is I put everything down. I'm going to offer quality time to this person because this relationship is vitally important to me. I don't have my phone on and I don't turn my phone off, but it's not like in my lap and I'm playing a game or I'm Facebooking or I'm something. I'm not doing any of that. So everything's done. My body is facing them. My eyes are on them. Just a soft, I'm not like staring at them, but I'm looking at them. I'm studying what they're saying. I'm paying attention. And my body is facing them. And I'm asking questions and I'm letting them talk. I'm not talking over top of them. So when they're talking, I'm listening. This is what's called reflective listening. And they start to notice, wow, like she's kind of paying attention. Like I could say something else. Because there's times where Amy and I, where we'll be talking and we'll completely talk over top of each other. And we get going and we're really fast, especially when she comes home from work. She's got all these things to tell me and I've got all these things to tell her. And we're like, we're just going back and forth and everyone's talking at the same time. And I'll take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, how about you go first? And we're trying to get dinner started and, we're hungry and she's hungry and we're like kind of downloading each other on our day, right? Well, all that's fine if you know that that's kind of how you operate. But if one of the people in that relationship kind of wants to be heard, or you want to take your relationship to a deeper level, I suggest you stop doing what you're doing and pay attention. It is one of the most powerful things you can do in a relationship to rekindle it, because we know that the life gets busy. And when you're in a relationship and some time goes by, you start to get comfortable and you start to kind of forget these little things. Because when you first start dating and you're flirting with each other and your relationship is new and exciting, are you on Facebook while they're talking? No, you are hanging on every word. Everything they say, you are paying attention to. So wouldn't that be interesting if you get to that point that your relationship needs a little bit of fire and pizzazz? That you say, you know what? Let's go for a walk. You put your phones in your pockets. The dogs both just perked their ears up when I said that. I'm pacing in the kitchen, through the kitchen and the living room. And as soon as I said WALK, they both jumped off the couch and came over and looked at me. So let's go for a hike. You put your phones in your pocket and you talk with each other. And you allow each other to finish their sentences. You build this bond. You show that they're important. You give back to them. When you fill their bucket, they then will feel obligated to fill yours. They then will want to give back to you because you're giving to them. When my grandma would do stuff like that, when she would spend time with me, I didn't just keep going after her, telling her things. I then would go and say, let's hang out. And I want to get to know you, Grandma. What did you do when you were a kid? What kind of things did you play with? What was it like when you were a child? Where did you go to school? What was school like? How good? I mean, I could now ask her these questions because I felt like $1 million. And when I have $1 million, I'm going to share the wealth. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I come back and I have this great relationship with this young man. He's 15 years old. I've never met him. And I deepen my relationship with him. Then I meet this girl and I deepen my relationship with her and we decide we're going to be a couple. And we still stay up all night long laughing like it's a freaking slumber party. And I have this deep bond with both my middle son and my younger son, who are not my biological children. They are Amy's children. And Brandon, who has autism, I have a deep bond with him. The other day, he goes, it was just earlier this week. We're getting ready. It's like, 7:30 in the morning and we're waiting for the bus. And he goes, I want to stay home today. And I said, why do you want to stay home? He goes, because I want to hang out with you. He's 15 years old. He loves school. What does he want to hang out with me for? Because he loves me, because I give him time, because I spend time with him, because I give him quality time. I make him feel important. Are there times where I'm frustrated with him? Yes. It's parenting. We get frustrated. I get tired. Are there times where I yell at him? Yes, it happens. I'm a parent, right? How about Cameron? He's been mini me since the kid moved in. He was like 3 years old or something when he moved in. And the very first thing I did was start spending time with him. Get on the floor and play Legos. Go outside and throw the football. Build a snowman. Go on a hike. Turn the radio up. Sing and dance in the house. Now, it's not because I'm playful that this happens. It's because I gave him time. If there's somebody in your life that you want to improve your relationship, give them quality time. Spend time with them. Look at them. Put all your distractors away. Point your body towards them so they know you're listening. Give them space to talk and finish a sentence. Your relationship will go deeper a lot faster. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this episode, please take the time to like and share. Also, please visit me on my other social media pages. I'm on Instagram, Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. I'm on Facebook, where we have this community titled Life Mastery Decoded, and it's a community of women and women entrepreneurs where we come together to support one another in sharing our successes and struggles. You can also check out my YouTube channel, where I share my teachings and my personal journey, and it's simply titled Jen Mack, Jenmac. Have a great day, and I hope to hear from you.